In the world of football, the Club World Cup is ringing a lot of bells. Different sounds, but geared towards the same audience. Some say it's a pointless competition led by the champions of Jurgenklopp and his armies of Liverpool who are not playing in the Club World Cup. And so some say it's just from pain of exclusion and not really a proper take on the competition. And there are some who also say that, well, the competition is really beautiful, despite its awkwardness of being the first time where after a full season has ended, after a Champions League final, there is still a proper competition with a league format, with what knockout stages that are happening that teams and players have to engage in. And so on this episode, we'll be discussing the Club World Cup itself, its format, the bizarre awkwardness and enjoyment and fun, the mixed feelings of exclusion that is being expressed by the likes of Jurgenklopp. But we'll also talk about what the competition itself offers to teams, the money, the opportunity, the prestige. How prestigious is this competition itself? Are we ranking it along the sides of the Champions League, the Europa League? When you are discussing prestige, the team that wins this competition this year, where do you place them? And how do you value their worth per this win? So as usual on this episode with me is Erasmus with his glasses and his Chelsea bias on his shoulders after them winning 4-1. And him trying to pin me to admit that they were dominant, but I said no because of their red card. But yeah, we'll have those discussions. So welcome to this episode and I hope you enjoy it. Erasmus, Chelsea fans are one of the few people who are enjoying the summer break because you guys are, Maresca is, I don't know, doing some juju and flying some wings around the club world. I saw his reaction to the second goal yesterday. The way he ran along the touchline is like Jose Mourinho who wanted to piss off opposition managers.
Yeah, almost jogging.
Yeah. So
almost jogging. Jose Mourinho
how are you feeling as a Chelsea fan? How are you feeling?
Yeah, like you could see his good, actually good. Like I feel blessed. I feel blessed. I think Chelsea is almost
fans 2 years ago would never say they feel blessed.
Yes. Yes, which is the beauty of it all, right? Because after the struggle is the glory,
Yeah.
is the comfort, is the success, is the clarity, purpose, and vision. And I remember that if you would remember, I was one of those who was saying that I like the new approach. I like where we're going.
Yeah.
It does look like we are running into certain bumps, which is quite natural, and there were some things we still need to get correct. There are still things we need to get correct, but the feeling around the club and the project is that everything is coming together now. We feel like we have a team.
Yeah.
Previously, it looked like we had a couple of individuals who were trying to prove themselves, but now we have a team. And if you look at a coach like Maresca, if you remember one of our episodes, I spoke about the personalities that we needed to head this young group of boys, right? Pochettino, who was more of like, these are my sons. So I need to baby them. We now have a Maresca who
these are professionals.
It's that, but like wants to grow boys to men, right? Yes, who is like, you need to be men, like boys that were trying to transition them to men. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. Like, I mean, I know when we lost against Flamengo, like everyone was in a meltdown, but this is our 11th win in 13 games.
Quite impressive, quite.
And in both games that we lost against, in both games that we lost against 10 men. So I would say impressive.
I mean, Benfica would also argue that they lost to 10 men yesterday, but let's not go there. I mean, Chelsea is doing well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, yesterday, the performance, especially with the disruptions that happened in the game, like the lightning, postponing the game for so long, halting the game for so long before resuming. So it was obviously an uphill battle. And the team that was going to win was clearly the team that would be able to stay focused and master the courage. And you'd notice that even for the team that lost, which is Benfica, it's these lapses in judgment, these like scenarios where it's like you are lagging behind, you are not fully immersed in the game yet. And sometimes these pauses, the difficulty is not the pause. The difficulty is the reboot after the pause to go for the jugular and actually win the game. So for that, I would always credit Chelsea for it. There's an awkwardness around the Club World Cup. Obviously, because it's not the first Club World Cup, but it's the first of its nature, right? It's the first one that has teams that play, what do you call it? Uh, Group stages and then go into knockout rounds. It's like a whole rounded tournament. And I get it. The goal is that they want to create a club World Cup that is as prestigious as the national World Cup, where you give breathing room, build anticipation over a 4 year period, and let the best teams within that period go in there and play it out. But the very first edition is always going to be awkward because it's the summer. Everybody knows that within this time there would have been business news flying around. This player is going here. But now that news is down because a lot of the big clubs are engaging in the Club World Cup. Teams are busy and players are also busy and avoiding these deal talks anyway. So, from a sports fan, as you, obviously, you're going to be biased because you're a Chelsea fan and you're enjoying the tournament so far. But what do you also think about, let's say, a Liverpool fan who won the Premier League but gets to endure Chelsea's noise around winning a Club World Cup match
Mhm.
that they can't participate in because they were not invited to this year's Club World Cup? I think there's a sense of awkwardness to the football world engaging in this so far.
Yes, and you can feel it all around, right? Like you open up social media and like opinions are sort of split
Yeah,
on this Club World Cup. There are some people who, a lot of people that I know just don't mind it. They are on the fence. It's more football. And when you ask them, like, and those who oppose it, when you ask them why, most people just say player welfare or there's too much
yeah,
football. But I do think that people who are still against this tournament are in a race against time.
yeah,
Like this is no longer just a topic which is being discussed in like UEFA conference seminars and things like that.
yeah.
This is a tournament which is being played now at the moment
It's
that we
happening.
have clubs participating.
It's happening
So
live.
it is happening. Like no matter where you are, it's happening,
Yeah.
and you can talk as much as you want. But once it happens, and we have a winner, and there is a cash prize for the winner, and there is trolls for the losers, and you see that okay, well,
Football has happened.
the people can, and you can already. Yes, it's almost like it almost sounds facetious, but like it is what it is. You can see that there is a huge marketing campaign by UEFA and also by USA as a country to
Yeah.
promote this. Like when I tuned in yesterday to one of the stations that was showing this, they were like, "Welcome to the most prestigious competition in the whole of world football, the FIFA Club World Cup."
They will say same thing about the World
And I was
Cup
like,
too.
"Young lady, yes." I was like, young lady, what are you doing? But you can see,
Yeah.
you can almost see the extra efforts that they are going to
Yeah.
market them. And I think that over time, this is only just going to increase. I maybe as a debater, I see both sides.
Yeah.
If I ask myself what is the most prestigious tournament in the whole world, I'm probably going to say, what's the most prestigious club tournament in the whole world? I'm probably going to say the UEFA Champions
Yeah.
League, right? But do I want it to be the UEFA Champions League? Like when I think of the concept of a World Cup,
Yeah.
that for me feels a bit more fair and representative.
Yeah.
So I like I would want to back that future. I would want to back this as a project,
Yeah.
but only if they can figure out the small problems around it, things like the summer breaks, when the
Yeah.
preseason is starting, when the European clubs go on break, when North American clubs, when the other leagues are sort of like interrupted in order to do this. Also, where they play it, because there are some concerns with the location and the sun and the weather. And I know USA was chosen because that is where most of the clubs go for
Yeah.
holidays anyway, and it's sort of like becoming that holiday spot. So if you can figure that out, you realize that we have a smooth functioning tournament which people can actually brag on and which actually gives clubs a lot of money. And if you think about the way the Champions League started, where it was like 6 teams, they had to go and borrow one from somewhere before they put it together. And today, Real Madrid can say we have
Yeah.
tomorrow you see a club come say, oh, we have five club,
Yeah.
and then you'll be like, hold, hang on. When did they start sharing it? We
Yeah.
don't get one. We also need to start taking it seriously. Be behind it.
Yeah.
So, from a pragmatist point of view, that's what it is. But obviously, I think that some of the problems which are being highlighted are things which we can resolve. And I don't think any strong argument has been given as to why we need to undermine the entire tournament or the concept as a whole. I think I actually like the
So
concept.
I'm guessing you disagree with Klopp then, because this is what he said. Klopp says the Club World Cup, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the Club World Cup is the worst idea ever implemented in football. People who have never had anything to do with day to day business are coming up with ideas. I fear that next season, players will suffer injuries they've never had before. If not, then it would happen at the World Cup or afterwards. This is Jurgenklopp's position on the Club World Cup. Do you genuinely think this is the worst idea ever implemented in football?
I have a number of critiques on this, and maybe this is the time to talk about how to think, which is your new platform which is coming, and
Yeah,
probably here would expose some of the flaws in this thing.
yeah.
My first critique of this is the outcome which is portraying is not equivalent to
The
like
existence of a Club World Cup.
the inputs over
Yeah,
here, because yes, because in general, how many teams are participating in general? We have, I think, 32
yeah,
teams, right? Most of the teams who you complain that are having a high load are the European
yeah,
teams. None of the Brazilian teams, they are already playing in leagues and stuff like that. So they would already have been playing,
yeah,
and they've not played that high number of games, which puts this at like an odd six, seven, eight number of
yeah,
teams. How many players exist in those teams? How many of those teams are playing throughout from round one up to the final?
yeah.
There'll be lots of teams that after the three group
They
games, they are
leave.
going to go home,
Yeah,
like Atletico Madrid. So saying that there are injuries down the line as a result of this Club World Cup has no correlation to the number of players and the number of clubs who are even already existing within this competition. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that those players having injuries in itself is fine, but you can already see that the situation is being blown out of proportion. It sort of follows a trajectory of there's so many games, no one thinks about player warfare. Two, he says the people coming up with the ideas, they sit in boardrooms, they are not involved. Which of the tournaments are the ideas of the players? Which of the players came up with the idea to play the UEFA Champions League or the Premier League? It was people who sat in suits who saw and the money, the commercial value, and saw the social value that could be had to this, who put this
yeah,
fucking shit together that we are all enjoying. If it was just players, they will play in one competition and still demand for all the money in the
yeah,
world. And thankfully, football is not a, a player centric sport. It is a collaborative enterprise
yeah,
where we all have a say in it, where we all, and that's been my problem. I understand and I respect Klopp so much. He's he's sort of like one of those people who advocates a lot for player warfare, and
yeah,
we need those people.
yeah,
We need those people. Like similar to it, we have characters like that
yeah,
who or defend one thing and defend it only when think about. So we need those
yeah,
people. But then in the grand scheme of things, we also need people who sit down and say, hold on a minute, if we did everything we were saying, we are going to have fuck all,
yeah,
right? So maybe there is a need to be able to balance those other.
yeah,
My last thing, my last thing, and probably more, but my last thing is that all of these things sound a bit Eurocentric.
yeah,
Go back to my first point about how this mostly just affects European competitions. Like the idea that a Club World Cup is being undermined in this way shocks me a little bit
yeah,
because most of the other continents are actually enjoying
yeah,
this. People like I saw Mamelodi Sundowns and the way they came to the tournament. Like it was a big tour. This is their biggest
yeah.
tournament. It's like someone looking at Worlds and saying, like Worlds,
It undermines
Worlds is so
puns.
shit. I'm like, yeah, but but I've been,
Yeah,
I've been dreaming all my life to be there. This is a good out. Where else
yeah,
is Flamengo going to find the opportunity to play against Chelsea?
yeah,
The amount of visibility that came to the club after they beat Chelsea.
yeah,
They said they gained. is it uh, close to 1 million new followers alone.
Yeah.
Do you know how much that is going to help them, the player ability, the amount of spotlight that's going to come onto them? People saw how Mamelodi Sundowns were playing. They were like, there's a team in Africa called the Brazilians and they play good football.
Yeah.
Let me follow them on SofaScore. The amount of opportunity is spreading out. So I'm all for pointing out to the dangers and the harms and taking active steps to try and reduce it. But I'm so much against people just incessantly taking a Western centric view and saying, we already have enough competition. Yes, because you are thrilled over here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who do not get to see their players participating at the highest
Yeah.
level, and now they do have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Klopp, please take a chill seat. You are Mr. Nice German lad. Probably get a large lager of beer and chill. Okay,
Because
chill,
I had
chill, sir,
Rafinha also
chill.
pass a similar comment, and Rafinha's own was even way more ridiculous because he said the players were not asked to make a decision. And the same thing you are saying, I'm like, what they were supposed to organize a referendum, polling stations, elections. Hey,
Cool. Yeah, we should.
you're about to do Club World Cup,
Barcelona primary.
Barcelona primaries.
Barcelona.
No, be small electoral college. Do it.
Charlie.
Hey, these guys.
Oh, these guys should get off their high
You know
horses.
what?
They get paid a lot.
You know what Kaveh Solokov
No,
said?
they get paid a lot. They get paid.
You know what Kaveh Solokov
No.
said in response to Club? He said, if you don't like Club World Cup, go and play paddle or go for a swim.
Yes, yes. Because I don't know, like more than half of these players are on holiday.
Yeah,
They're on summer holiday.
yeah,
Like I saw the Club World Cup, and like the Chelsea players have one training session, and the
yeah,
rest of the day is just in LA chilling.
yeah,
Man City, for example, all of their players bringing their families into a huge hotel resort
yeah,
where they are actually having a vacation. Look, is this the ideal vacation? No, like people should probably be able to spend their vacation the way they want. But at the same time, you can't say that people are not trying to find innovative
yeah. The
ways
clubs
of
are
being able to deal
rationalizing the
with the
situation.
problems that this is coming with.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't like this slippery slope argument of players who get hurt in this season. Okay, no, if they don't get hurt, then they get hurt in the World Cup. No, if they don't get hurt in the World Cup, what
so
about the
the
other season?
argument there,
No.
he's preemptively rebutted it too. So if they don't get hurt this season, he will say, but he said the World Cup. And if they don't get hurt in the World Cup, he will say, but after the World
Yes.
Cup. But after the World Cup, too, there's no timeline. So
Ye-
once they get hurt, his argument is true.
Exactly. No matter what you do, the
No
argument
matter
is
what
true.
you
That's
do,
why
the
I'm like,
argument is true.
how to think. Please follow the channel. How to
Yeah,
think.
go on Instagram
Okay.
and search for how to think about
Please follow
everything.
the channel.
And definitely, we'll talk about some of these ridiculous logical conclusions there. But you were talking about the money, and some people forget that it's really really important, right? Because if you look at the Club World Cup prize money, participation bonus alone is 23.6 million to 35 million euros. Group stage win, one group stage win is 1.77 million euros. A group stage draw is 944,000 euros. Round of 16 is 6.84 million euros. So even for the lowest of clubs who just showed up, some of them, their entire club valuation is the participation bonus. Think about the amount of money this gives to the clubs,
Wow.
the amount of football development that's likely to go on, the amount of financial capacity that it gives them. These are players who toil either way and get underpaid because they do not have that amount of money being popped into their leagues. Doing one extra tournament to bring this level of revenue, to increase their bonuses, to be able to negotiate for higher salaries because the club can also afford to do so without being suicidal to their finances. I don't think football should just, like you are saying, be viewed in some ridiculously boxed Eurocentric view of we have money, so we don't need it.
Let me expose the feathers in the hens. You know what they call it? As they say in our local language. So when the air blows, it exposes behind the hens. Whatever. I'll leave that between that. Do you notice that most of these clubs, when they are given the summer breaks, end up going to the USA anyway to
Exactly.
go and play charity
To
matches.
raise money.
So Manchester United, after playing such a good season, went to Asia, did an Asian tour,
Yeah.
played with these same players to raise money.
Yeah.
These clubs, coaches, whoever they are, should not pretend like the players are not assets.
Yeah.
That's what they are. And when you are a player and that's what you accept. You are an asset of the club.
Yeah.
You are there for the club's using to make money. I'm sorry, but like it's grilling, but that's what it is. And yes, it's like me as a worker. Like I am my company's asset.
Yeah.
I'm there to make money. So yes, it cares about my welfare to the extent that I continue to stay productive, and it can care about my welfare to the extent that my holistic well-being and me staying safe and all
Yeah.
of that is good to the basic humanitarian rights and things.
Yeah.
But like this whole concept of let's wrap them in rule and it's very crazy to me because, like I said, player wages, like Chelsea just bought a 21 or 22-year-old player, Jeremy Bino Gittins,
Yeah.
who stats. His stats look like, I don't know how to call it. His stats look like some computer code. Like, they quoted 55 million.
Binary
They
numbers.
quoted 55 million pounds.
0101110.
Yes, they quoted 55 million pounds. Not only that, if you look at player wages now, like did
Yeah.
you see Ronaldo's
Yeah.
contract?
Bro.
Jesus Christ.
That's for
You are not a human being.
that's
Why do
for a
you
40-year-old.
treat you like a
A
human being?
40-year-old.
You are a company. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You are an
Yeah.
enterprise. And you come and cry for human rights. You are not human.
You're superhuman, Charlie.
Please, please look. Please, let's be honest. And I'm not saying this to demean or undermine, but you have a player who every second is earning uh, over 300, over, was it
Yeah.
$30,000 or something like that every second.
Charlie.
And you are a human. Which human have you seen being able to do that?
And you see,
So
always too,
please, let's always put it in context.
like you are saying, it's always the players with this big money that come out and speak in these ways. Because for the low wage earners, they would rather play more and earn more. Because their contracts are not as fat as earning every second.
Yes.
Some of these contracts are designed per match basis, per wins basis. Like these guys need more playing time to earn more money.
More, yeah. And that's what thank you, because I'm sure that's an argument that people come up with. Not every player is Ronaldo, so not every player is earning that much. But those players are not playing that World Cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Those players are probably not playing Champions League and playing all your games. So those players, they are fine.
Yeah.
In fact, if you can increase their wages, we would say thank you very
Yeah.
much. I think that there should be more decentralization of the money. Those players should have a chance to participate in competitions.
Exactly.
Because they used to complain about the FA
Yeah.
Cup. Club complain about the League Cup.
He complains.
And if not for
He
the
complains
League Cup,
about a lot of
players,
tournaments. So.
clubs like Plymouth Argyle, clubs like Plymouth Argyle, clubs like Millwall, shout outs to Michael Howard, will not be able to participate and also earn some money out of this. So I think that more competitions is really a way of decentralizing the power within the game and making sure that we are able to split not just revenue but status and to promote the club across. You think in next 5 years, Auckland City will just have players who are part-time players?
No.
Do you think that's going to happen? Especially after they drew. When you mentioned the prize money after they drew, do you know how many part-time bakers that they help them sign up? Do you know how much now they can say we paid you, so you don't need to bake bread? Focus on the football, please. No one is thinking about it. Like someone just said player welfare, and we all just look okay, player welfare, player welfare, player welfare, player welfare. No one is thinking anymore. Please. I hope I don't get into trouble for this though, but I think it's
No, to be
just
very honest,
that.
it's a necessary
Oh, come on.
conversation to have, because usually, and that's the problem with football, a lot of the time, and that's the problem with every conversation. A lot of the time, the conversation gets dominated by the views of those who are at the very top of it, forgetting that they are usually, in terms of population, about just 1% of the people experiencing that system. There's a huge number of people in the football economy that would give everything to play in this Club World Cup. So to say that players are going to get injured and all that,
Yes.
and also, if you think about it, like, a lot of clubs are relishing this opportunity, especially clubs in rebuilding projects. Like, they had an opportunity to sign players early on and utilize them
Yes.
in a competition to fit a system, to experiment, to find data, to see exactly how they perform under specific levels of stress. This is an opportunity that a manager like Guardiola is relishing, because he's doing magical tactical tweaks across all
Yes.
three games and basically experimenting what works for his team. Him, when he goes to the league next season and he starts on match day 1, he's not going to be experimenting anymore, because this even provides, and like you are saying, like,
No.
there are so many the England clubs, sometimes they go to the US and go and play a mini Premier League preseason game, preseason tournament, where they,
Can you
like,
imagine?
there's no
Can you
money, there's
imagine?
no some meager small coins on it. Those ones, they never complain that players will get hurt and after World Cup they will never work again, and and, and they work alone and all that. But when it's Club World
Yes.
Cup, then hey, the players will die. Charlie. Anyway, I wanted to ask this.
Can you imagine? No, you are spot
Go
on.
ahead, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just going to say that you are spot on.
Yeah,
Like obviously, I was saying, I care about like how the players are doing, but I think most of these problems we really can find solutions for them.
yeah. And I think also people underestimate the brilliance of clubs. For these big clubs who we are saying are the ones who play the most games, they have the biggest squads. City did a 7-person change in their starting lineup from their second game to their third game. 7 people. And you'd come back and say that the players are going
Can
to
you
die.
imagine?
The players are
Can
going
you
to
imagine?
break their legs like they've never seen before. Bro.
If anything, I look at some of these clubs like Liverpool who are not participating in this, who say will not be fatigued. So, like clubs like Chelsea, Man City, who I would say are two of the biggest competitors to Liverpool,
Yeah.
are playing in this tournament.
Yeah.
Which means that the only other one not playing is Arsenal.
Yeah.
So it's an advantage to Liverpool. I don't.
Why are they?
Maybe it's
For me
advantage to
also, why
Chelsea
are they
who
even
have the chance to
complaining?
play competitive
Yeah.
games while still
Yeah.
so like we won't know, and until like the new season starts
Yeah.
we won't know, we won't be able to compare who has the competitive advantage. I hate it when people are like, oh, the clubs play over there, they'll be fatigued. So but they are also playing competitive games
Yeah.
where they are trying out their new methods, things like that. They've also been given bandwidth to do early transfers, which
Yeah.
means they get good players and integrate them well. These other guys also progress. And that's sports.
Yeah.
In sports, different conditions can create competitive advantage, and it's up to clubs to make use of that. And if some of these
Yeah.
clubs anticipate getting in here and they know that these are the problems that they will most likely deal with, I would say, are the laws being made flexible so that it allows them to not have to close that gap of disadvantage.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking. And it's not something that I think undermines the entire concept of the Club World Cup existence, especially if it will displace things like the Summer League and things
Yeah.
like that. I'll rather watch this, to be honest.
Obviously. I mean, I wanted to ask this question before we move on to final predictions about who is likely to win and all that. But you look at the Club World Cup in its baby stages in this format. Previously, the Club World Cup was known to be a prestigious tournament, all right, but it was like, I think the champions of the Champions League and champions of the Europa League will go and meet and play, or was it something of that format? And then whoever wins, hey, Club World. Now,
Yeah.
so it didn't used to feel like teams toiled for it. right? Now teams are toiling for it. They are going through group stages, going through knockout stages. They would have to face some difficult fixtures in order to win. And so the question becomes, how prestigious is this Club World Cup? I know that the objective is eventually to make it the most prestigious club competition in the world, because the default advantage that they would have over the Champions League is not many clubs can boast of it, because it's going to be a 4-year period thing. It's like the World Cup. You don't get to play it a lot, so you don't get to boast of enough of it. And by creating a default scarcity, they manufacture an added value to it. But that added value might be there maybe after 10 editions or 5 editions and all that. Within its infant stages now, where would you rank the Club World Cup in its prestige?
No, it's a very difficult question to answer because, like you said, it's an evolving target,
Yeah,
right? So it's not just the evaluation in the now. Like most of it comes from its prospects,
yeah,
right? Most of the evaluation comes from its prospects. But if we were to look at the tangibles, the things that we could derive from now and equate to it, one, I'll start with the prize money.
yeah,
This is 100 million.
yeah,
This is the highest that we've seen any competition. If I'm correct, the Champions League is about 20 mil or so.
yeah,
So this is the one that gives you the most money.
yeah,
Two, you beat a variety of teams.
yeah,
You beat teams from all over the
yeah,
world, which means that you still get to face some of Europe's strongest teams, but then also you face some of the strongest teams from different continents who have different ideas and ways of playing football.
yeah,
But thirdly, you also look at uh, the way in which it is happening. I think the kind of games that you are getting maybe is not as competitive as
yeah,
previously. It's not as competitive as some of the leagues that we know now.
yeah,
But I look at it and I'm like, previous versions of the Champions League
yeah,
probably felt same. You probably face like a molde who you can score 6, 7. But as the competition is progressing, you can
yeah,
see that the difficulty is growing. So the competitive point maybe is quite balanced.
yeah,
If I look at those two things, I would say that maybe apart from the Champions League in club football, I don't see anything that's way more prestigious than this.
yeah,
If I'm just to look at it at the present, I'll still maybe go for the Champions League due to the greater concentration of some of the stronger clubs within the set and the pool.
yeah,
But then, even if I look at this round of 16 and the way in which it is happening, excitement that's going on, I don't know, but probably second to the Champions League. But I think in a few years' time, we'll probably overtake it too.
yeah,
Because no, because look at this. Like when you did debates, like you, for example, I think you tried to be national champion unsuccessfully for like 3 years or so. 3 years
You
or
didn't have
maybe
to
to what
shade me.
for reason.
You didn't have to shade me. You could have made your point. But don't worry. I brought a hanger and you've hanged me on it. That's fine. Go ahead.
But but by being able to make it out, you're like, okay, no, like national champion for what?
Yeah.
Africa. You went to Africa. You are the seat of some of the finest in Africa.
Yeah.
Where did your ambition turn? After that, you were tired. Where
Yeah.
did your ambition turn next to?
World.
To the
Yeah.
world, right? So it gives that sort of natural progression, which I know has always existed. But then I think that it is rather a failure of marketing and investment or creativity of the previous versions,
Yeah.
right? And I think this version happens every 4 years or
Yeah.
so. So it does give it a nice feeling of progression when you say you compete for, like the way PSG did, you compete for your local championship,
Yeah.
you compete for Europe, continental, then you compete for the world.
Yeah.
It gives it that nice progression that if it's really at the apex of it, one of the most competitive tournaments, it helps well in terms of the marketing and how clubs can position themselves to win it
Yeah.
too.
I mean, you are.
And if you think about it that way too, it gives credence other leagues too, right? It
Yeah.
gives credence to the African Championship
Yeah.
because we are like, bring the best African team here,
Yeah.
bring the best South American team here, and it starts giving credence to all of the championships, which is good for football because I know some people who are now like, oh, that Botafogo team, now I want to keep on watching
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing that I was about to say, that I think the biggest advantage of the Club World Cup is its reach. and its inclusivity in terms of the coverage of regions and geography around the world. Because no matter what, the UEFA Champions League is Europe, is European. It's centered in that way. It's structured to crown the European champion. The Club World Cup extends far beyond Europe. And so I think even in its baby steps now, I would consider it, if not more than, as prestigious as the Champions League, because you are truly reflecting the best of the best among the world, right? It's like we talk about the Euros. Sure, the Euros is a prestigious tournament, but when you go to the World Cup, the biggest advantage of the World Cup is you are competing against everyone in the world, as
Yeah.
opposed to competing against everyone in Europe or competing against everyone in South America, right? So I think just on sheer geography, it should be considered, even if we consider all its downsides now that we are looking at its prospects and not its current capacity and its competitiveness. Just by the nature in which it's modeled and its coverage, it should be considered as prestigious as the Champions League. And I think whichever clubs wins it now will spin that narrative. Because wait until someone wins it, and then you'd really hear the narratives of how prestigious this competition is. Right. So, yeah.
Oh yes. No, I mean I know I had CL first, but anyone who argues that I will not argue with them
Yeah.
because I think that future by the time it depends on who wins it. The problem was first time, like the one who wins Champions League automatically wins it. And when you don't win it, we rather throw you with it
Yeah.
rather than recognizing what it
Yeah.
does for the other teams. But now when you see certain teams winning, my only problem is that I hope it does strengthen the other leagues
Yeah.
because I'll hate for it to just be like
European clubs
another
going there to
champ.
win.
And this is what I like about it, right? Yeah, and but this helps in the sense that it's not just oh the one who won in Europe this year is going to win the tournament,
Yeah.
just like it's always been. Because in the past, the reason it wasn't marketable was predictable,
Yeah.
right? The European team goes there, dominates, everyone wins, so we
Yeah.
don't care about it until they lose. Then we throw them. But now you have 5 European teams going because they have been champions of the past
Yeah.
before. So you don't just go there like
Yeah.
you have to beat stronger teams
Atletico Madrid
to
was in
get
the
there, which gives you
quarterfinal of the
a bit
Champions
more
League and they
prestige.
didn't make it out of the group stages here. So, like, the competitiveness
Yeah.
is real. Yeah.
And after that, I like how they fight. Yeah, I like how they fight on the pitch to play.
Yeah.
Then later on, they're like, "Oh yeah, but we didn't really care about that. Yeah, we were going to go home in." Yeah, like and teams who did that at home
Yeah.
and teams who take it seriously are still in the tournament.
Yeah.
And now you'd start thinking, okay, if I had just made it,
Yeah.
like what's that one? If I had just put in the efforts to play in this tournament.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what happened, let's be honest. I think they put in the efforts. When they lose, they're
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
can't be
Yeah. Yeah.
bothered
Yeah.
anyway, which probably is how I felt as a
Obviously,
Chelsea.
Nations
Yes. But
League.
now that I look at what's happening, I'm like,
When they were going to play the
like
Nations League final, Ronaldo fans says, if they win, it's a huge international trophy. If they lose, Charlie, it's just a bunch of friendly matches. So
yes, yes, it's just a part of the matches. It depends on the
it
agenda.
depends on the agenda, Charlie. Anyway, who do you think is going to win the Club World Cup? Because there are a couple of teams that are really, really exciting. Obviously, Chelsea is playing with a lot of belief, a lot of confidence, and you guys look like a team that is you can't underestimate. You can't go like this is a team under reconstruction. You see, there's usually a team under reconstruction, and there's a team that during the reconstruction phase, it dawns on them that no, we're actually good and we can attack anyone. It's like Chelsea has now reached that space where there's been some lights shown on them that actually this is what we are capable of doing, right? And you could see that hunger, that desire. Manchester City and Pep is also spending money to build a monster of a team. If you look at the way in which Pep is playing and how he's dominating,
Mm.
Man City is the only team that went unbeaten in the group stages. That's how good they've been so far. in the tournament. And so obviously there's a case to be made for them. There's also Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso, who is sort of, they had a little bit of a panic start with their draw, but they picked up. They showed character even when they were 10 men down and dominated their second game and also won their third game. And then there's Bayern. Bayern is going in as a big boy, but it's not making so much noise now. It's like, I don't know, since company took over Bayern, they've been this silent killer. They know they're a big team, but the press and the media is not really hyping them up like that.
Mhm.
Right. And then there's Inter as well. But there are also some Inter Miami and PSG are going to be facing today. I want to see how they deal with Messi. But yeah, these are teams, and I'm not sure. A lot of predictions have gone for
Blood.
Manchester City and PSG final. I don't know what you think about these predictions. And what do you think? Which final are you predicting so far? Obviously, you're predicting Chelsea. So Chelsea and who?
I'm trying to pull up.
Let,
Oh no. You know, I'm a very, very realistic pundit,
let me send it
right?
to you.
I'm not of the, like, I belong in the high octane. Yeah, I have it open now. The high
Okay.
octane level of logic and
Also high
analysis,
octane.
where I can pull out my emotions. And
Yeah.
it. Yeah. No, but when I look at the draw of, like, I see like Inter playing Fluminense.
Yeah.
Like Fluminense has been very good, but you think Inter can hold strong. But Inter struggled. They've struggled, but they are that kind of team that can like really just struggle and still make it
Yeah.
very, very far. But you like to think that Fluminense can either cause an upset, or if City progresses against Al Hilal, you would think Al Hilal can cause an upset given how they played against Real
Yeah.
Madrid. But when I see the way in which the rest of their game go, it doesn't give me too much hope to think there'll be an upset. But you know what it is.
Yeah.
But you would like to think that with the way Man City has been playing now, they'll find a way into the
Yeah.
final. Like, I mean, if we do beat Palmeiras, we
If
it
you
will be
had
the semi-final.
a
Hopefully not
City
City,
Chelsea
but
semi-final, would you like believe that, would you genuinely believe that Chelsea can beat City? Or would you hold the notion that it is possible,
yeah.
but maybe it's, you still give a lot of the odds
Yeah,
to City?
I think it will be our hardest. It will be the hard. Yes. I'll give a lot of the odds to City. I think it will be the hardest thing to do, but I don't think this City team is unbeatable. I looked at their first match against Wydad,
Yeah.
and they did concede a lot of chances. Obviously, they weren't very, very serious about defending in that game
Yeah.
compared to the rest of uh, the games how they played against Juventus. But they look really sharp. They
Rodri is
look really
back.
sharp. But
Rodri is back.
obviously Chelsea, yeah, Rodri is back. I take solace in the fact that these are also good players,
Yeah.
but they may have the problem that Chelsea had at the start of the season,
Too
where
much talent.
once you are tested in a very different way, once you have a team that, yeah, that is, it's a lot of talent combining, but the test comes when you need to respond as a team, like you
Yeah.
go down by a goal, or maybe like you have a team that is quite stubborn and is frustrating you. Then now some of the misplaced passes, things like that, starts getting to you as a team, because
Yeah.
this is still a City team that has a lot of new individuals and who are still getting used to Guardiola. On the other side, though, I think that's where it's stuck. There's PSG, there's Bayern, there's Real Madrid, there's BVB. I think you tip PSG and Real Madrid to maybe make it out and compete against each other. And I think in the same way, it depends on the Real Madrid team that we see against Juventus, right?
Yeah.
Because in the first two games, they weren't very impressive.
Yeah.
And this PSG team, they look like they know what they are doing, but also at the same time, they are missing Dembele. It's been
Yeah.
a long season. So I think it depends. Like, Real Madrid looks like they are gaining speed going.
Yeah.
PSG look like they are just coasting.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that they may come neck and neck by the time that we get together. But it would take something special to beat this PSG team.
Yeah.
I don't think Bayern Munich has that. I think by the time it gets to semi-final, Real Madrid may have that.
Okay.
So we may end up seeing like uh, any of these four teams make the final, Real Madrid, Chelsea,
City
Man
and
City,
and
or
P.
PSG.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't have a stake in this, so I honestly don't care who wins. But I'm here to always throw Chelsea when they get knocked out, even though I would come here and say your win doesn't matter, your losses matter. So I'm waiting. But yeah, I think it's offering something unique
As always.
and something different in the summer. And it's a little bit more less boring. Like a little bit less boring than the summer window that just goes silent and quiet. So it's been nice having this conversation really, because the Club World
Yeah,
Cup has been dominating things, and I think we've actually spoken about these things in way more depth, and also in a way that brings a full picture to it than you'd find in a vast majority of the media. So as always, it's been a nice conversation with everyone. All the best to Chelsea and Maresca and their rising geniuses. um, City and Pep and his Rodri that has come back will be waiting to put the fear of the Lord in you in the semi-finals. But leave your comments, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let us know your thoughts on these discussions that we've had so far. Thanks for tuning in, and see you on the next episode.